I just played in one of the craziest 2-5 games I've ever played in, and it wasn't even in Vegas. So I just got done playing one of the craziest 2-5 games in Redding, California at the Casino Club. Had so many interesting, crazy spots today that my head is spinning. I got to record a bunch of them, so let's jump into the hands. Okay, so one of the first hands of the session, a couple limpers in early position, and it folds around to us on the button with King 8 of spades. Now, this could easily be a fold, but considering the table was pretty tight, I decided to open it up, so I raise it up to 25, get a caller in the small blind, and the two limpers call. So we see a flop, four-way to the flop. We are in position, which is the best position. Ace-6, queen, 2 spades. So we do flop the nut flush draw. It checks around to us, and we decide to c-bet it. We have the range advantage. We can represent all the strong ace and queen combos. Plus, if we do hit our flush, then we have a value bet. So we bet $60, and we wind up taking it down, which is always nice with king high. All right, queen jack of clubs here in the cutoff, a bunch of limpers to us, and we raise it up to $35. We get a caller from the big blind and the other two limpers, and the hijack calls as well. So we're 5-way to the flop. Queen, jack, jack, rainbow. We hit the money flop here with our full house. Really not too worried about anything. I don't think that anybody has pocket queens or anything because there was no re-raise pre-flop. So pretty certain we have the best hand. Checks to us, and we decide to be sneaky and check it back. I like checking it back here when we block a lot of the board. I do want them, being in position, I do want them to try and take a stab at it on the turn. So 3 of hearts on the turn. It checks around to us again, unfortunately. So now we're pretty certain that nobody has a jack. I think a lot of jacks would bet with the flush draw out there. Same thing with some queen combos. I think a queen would bet for value and protection. So now I think it's time for us to put some money in the pot, try and build a pot here so that we can get some value. Maybe they'll call us with king 10 or 9 10 or some heart combos. So we bet $50, and unfortunately, the 2 players fold in the big blind and under the gun 1. The under the gun 2 player does come along for the call, and he checks the 7 of spades river. We go for value. I think we can get about $100 worth of value here. So that's what we go, and he does end up calling and mucking. He probably had a hand like queen 10 or queen 9 suited or something like that. He might have called us with some a 7 or a hand like 8-7 suited, or maybe even pocket 5s or something small. Maybe he put us on a bricked flush draw or something. Who knows? Don't care. We took down a nice little pot there and built our stack up a little bit more. Okay, so this next pot I wasn't even involved in, but they played a massive pot, and I wanted to show you how crazy the action in this game was. So it was nut flush draw, all in on the turn versus, I believe it was the king of hearts 5. So he had the king of hearts blocker to the flush and a pair of 5s. All in, 4 piles, and the guy with the nut flush draw wound up rivering a straight. Oh my God.
He's going to have you covered, my friend.
Wow, nice hand.
What did he have before that?
The castle grows.
I had a nut flush draw.
You had a what?
Nut flush draw with an open ender.
Nut flush draw, and you had a down the river?
Nice. Kind of makes you want to come and play this game in Redding, huh? So this next hand, there are a couple limpers in early position, and then a short stack in the low jack raises it up to 25. The hijack calls, and we wake up with ace queen off on the button. I think this is a great spot to 3-bet. We want to try and isolate the short stack to get all in versus us and fold out everybody else. So we raise it up to 120, and like we had hoped, the low jack short stack shoves all in for 140, and obviously we make the call. He has kings, and fortunately for us, we hit trip queens on him. So kind of coolered him there, but hey, we'll take it.
Not for me tonight.
Lucky turn for me. $327 pot in the bank. So here we have king jack of spades in the low jack position. Under the gun +2 comes in for a limp. We want to isolate. We want to raise this up, so we make it 25. and folds around to him, and he does make the call. So we're heads up to the flop on the ace, jack, 6 rainbow. He checks. We decide to check back. I don't think we're necessarily going to get 3 streets of value with this hand. I think if we were to bet flop, turn, and river, we'd only get called by a lot of ace combos. There's no flush draws or anything he can call us with. So I say we check back with some of our showdown value and see a turn. He bets $25 on the 5 of hearts turn. He can certainly have some flush draws, some straight draws now. We're definitely not checking the flop to fold to a bet on the turn. That is kind of why we do check back, so that we can kind of pot control the situation. So we call the 25, deuce of hearts on the river. He checks. Now that he checks, we are fairly certain he never has a flush here unless he is trapping us. So you might think what I do on the river here is kind of crazy, but I know this player. I've played with him a ton. He gets very stubborn. He is definitely capable of calling us with a deuce or a 6 on this board. So we want to go for the thinnest of thin values, and we bet $20, and he snap calls it off with queen jack suited. So we did get some thin value there. Just again, this is a player dependent play. So we went for a thin value and we got it. Okay, so here we have a bunch of limpers. As you can see, this is pretty much a limp fest at this table, but they definitely never fold to raises. Here we have king 10 of diamonds in the small blind. I think our hand is strong enough to raise it up and hopefully to isolate out some of our opponents. The big blind 3 bets to 100 here. The cutoff ends up cold calling the 100, which is strange because he limped pre-flop. So yeah. So I think here it's okay to just flat one. He's not going too big. If he had gone much bigger, like if he had gone 130 or something, then we could probably consider folding sometimes. But I really don't think so, especially being that the cutoff is in with a very weak range. So 3-3 deuce, 1 diamond, 2 clubs. We check and he bets 140, and we just forfeit the pot here. I think that he can have a lot of pairs on this board. I think that he's going to have, some better Broadway combos like ace-king that we're just drawing pretty slim to. So we're totally fine forfeiting the pot. I know we have a backdoor diamond draw, but no need to get too fancy with the king. So here we have the beautiful pocket jacks, or as Brad Owens would say, pocket jiggities. Under the gun limps, and we raise it up to 25 here. Cutoff calls, button call, small blind, and the under the gun limper call as well. So we are seeing a flop 5 ways, 9-8-6 rainbow flop. It checks to us. Now I know this is a spot where we do have an overpair, but I think this is an important spot to check in pot control. We'll definitely call a bet if somebody bets, but we're up against 4 other ranges here, and they're just gonna connect a lot with this board. So, I mean, I know we block some of the straight draws, but I think that we have to kind of be a little cautious on this board. I don't think a c-bet would be necessarily bad, but we just decide to check it, and hopefully it checks around on the turn, which it does. But unfortunately, the turn brings in a 4-card straight, so I think we have to check it again. We really wouldn't want to bet and then have to get raised off our hand. So we check it around, and deuce of clubs on the river checks to us. We check again. The river brings in a flush, a backdoor flush. So I don't think that we can ever get like thin value from like a 1-pair hand. I just don't think that we're ever getting value from a hand like ace-9 when there's a flush and 4 cards to a straight out there. So we check around, and somehow we end up taking it down. Here we have queen jack off facing a limper and a raise to 20. I like 3-betting this hand. It doesn't really play well as a flat, so we go 60. And it folds around to the big blind, who ends up making the call. UTG calls, and the raiser, who made a 20, also calls as well. So jack 9, 7, 2 clubs. The big blind goes all in for $60. The under the gun player calls, and the under the gun 2-player calls as well. So we come along for the call here. We are going to be a little bit cautious. I do like that we have a flush draw blocker. 8 of hearts on the turn, checks to us. I decide to make it 200 here. Now, before you freak out, let me just tell you my reasoning. There's now 4 cards to a straight. I think that if either of those players had a 10, they are definitely going to be betting for protection from the clubs. So I just think that we can, very easily represent the 10 and get them to fold. So it's kind of like we're turning our pair into a bluff. Plus, I do like that we block top pair because it's lessening their chances of having a jack. However, the under the gun player shoves all in, killing our plan here. I guess we, in hindsight, could have just checked it back and avoided this mess, but he winds up having queen 10. GG, Lexi. You could have just checked back the turn, couldn't you? Although in reality, if we did check back and he did bet the river, I do think we're going to make some hero calls a lot if the clubs bricked out. Because I don't really think that he's going to be betting 2 pair for value or top pair for value when there's 4 cards to a straight. Moving on. All right, so here we have 5-4 of diamonds under the gun +1. The under the gun player makes it 30. We give it a call. Low jack calls, high jack calls, cutoff calls, and the big blind goes all in for $55. Everybody calls. No one is folding for $25 more. And we see a flop 6 ways, and we completely brick out. We are not getting involved in this pot at all on the Jack 7-10 rainbow. The under the gun player bets 130. We fold, and he gets 2 callers. Now, I know I folded this hand, but I have to show the action here. He continues for $200. He gets the low jack to shove for $750, and the hijack goes all in as well. He calls, and King 3 takes it down. King 3 wins the pot on this board. $2,300 pot. I just can't. Why do I not have a jack there? Wow. He was up against someone who didn't show their cards, and King Queen, who, that's fair, flopped an open-ended straight draw. I get it, but still, how does King 3 take it down here? How do I not have a jack in this hand? Boy, do I love the casino club. Never a dull moment. Up. Topping up. Okay, so we're facing a limp and a guy that makes it 20 in the hijack. We have 10-8 of hearts. We come along for the call. Button calls as well, as does the big blind and the original limper. We flop trips. We're super happy. The hijack continues for $30. We decide to give it a call. I don't really want to raise here and then fold out some flush draws or some 4 combos. So we give it a call. Now we're heads up with the hijack, 2 of clubs on the turn. He is a very aggressive, bluffy type of person. So versus these kind of people, I like to play more of a trappy style. So he continues again for $90. We give it another call here. I definitely plan on, I would think that if he bricked some spade combos or a straight draw, if he had like a hand like 6-7 or 5-7 or something, I can see him bluffing the river. Same thing with missed spades, which we don't block. Unfortunately, the queen of spades gets there, but he bets 200, and I don't think we're ever folding. We give it a call, and unfortunately, he has us outkicked. But again, this is a player who I have a lot of history with, and I know that he is capable of bluffing, even in spots where it doesn't really make sense. All right, everyone, massive pot alert. Okay, so here we have a couple of limpers, and then the low jack makes it $30. We decide to 3-bet here to 100 with the ace jack off, trying to isolate this to a heads up pot. Now, keep in mind, these are very, very crazy players. At this point, the small blind had been drinking pretty heavily, and he was playing like crazy. So the small blind decides to cold call the 100, and the low jack calls as well. So we're 3-way to the flop on the ace, queen, 5. It checks to me. I decide to check back here, pot control a little bit, and the 3 of diamonds on the turn, and the small blind bets out $300. Now remember that this player was drunk and playing every single hand and playing so crazy. So he bets 300. The low jack decides to call the 300. Now I don't think that the low jack has anything too strong. I mean, he did call the 100 pre-flop, but he didn't 4-bet us. He didn't have that much behind. So I think if he had a hand like ace king or ace queen, he's going to 4-bet shove a lot, especially knowing that I 3-bet really wide. So he flats the 300. Now here we only have like 580 or so behind. So I don't want to just call the 300 and then have to fold to a river. So we decide to shove, and the small blind wound up calling, and he showed ace 9. So we wound up taking it down and won a massive pot there. Yeah. You have to make adjustments when the game is super crazy. I don't know. Thank you. That's interesting. All right, so here we have a player that makes it 25, and the low jack ends up calling the 25. We make it 125. in the hijack with ace king off, and we get a fold from the original raiser, and the low jack ends up calling. 8-5-5 rainbow checks to us. We decided to check back. I think I could have c-bet here, but we're facing a player that is just super unpredictable, so I like to just check back. I think our ace high is going to be good sometimes, so we can call a lot of turn bets. Deuce of clubs on the turn. We decided to check it again. River comes the ace, and now we clearly have a value bet, so we go 115, and he ends up folding. Okay, we're facing a raise from early position to 15, middle position calls, and we have king, queen of spades on the button. We give it a call. We could 3-bet this for value sometimes, but I think calling is fine too. King, 9-3, 2 diamonds, 1 club, checks around to us. We end up betting $50 into 75. We can definitely get some value from worse kings and some diamond combos. Everyone folds except one of the players in early position. King of clubs on the turn, so now we have trips with the second nut kicker. Always a wonderful thing. We definitely want to put in another bet, so we go 100, and he winds up making the call. So when he calls here, I think he certainly could still have some diamond combos. Maybe he has a 9, maybe hand like ace-9 suited or 8-9 suited or something like that. 3 of spades on the river. We decide to go for a half pot, a close to half pot size bet, and he ends up making the fold. So probably had some kind of diamond combo. He might have gotten stubborn and called us with a king, with a 9 if he did have one, but I think it's more likely just a misdraw. Okay, so this is the last hand that I have decided to play of the session. The drunk player in middle position raises it up to 45. We definitely want to go heads up versus him, so we make it 120, and he ends up making the call. So we're heads up just like we wanted versus the drunk guys. So ace, ace, 10, 2 hearts. He donk leads for 245 here. Now, again, he's drunk. We're definitely not folding to him. I also don't think he's going to be leading here with an ace. I think he would probably trap it more. So we make the call, let him continue to bluff if he is bluffing. He checks the 7 of spades turn, and we end up checking back just in case he has an ace. And the river comes a 5 total brick, and he bets 200. We give it a call, and he shows queen 10 of spades. So lucky for us, we took down the last hand of the night, and we are tired. We are ready to call it a night and book the win. Cashing out, and we are in for 1,000, out for 23.15 for a profit of 13.15. All right, so that wraps up the hands for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please hit that subscribe button if you like this content, and if you play any of these hands differently, please let me know in the comments. I learn from you guys as much as you learn from me, and I love hearing from you. So thank you again. Come join my poker family, and yeah, see you guys next time.